When Saladin's mercy silenced the battlefield, the world thought the holy wars had finally ended. But peace never lasts long, especially when men learn they can make gold from God. The Crusades were meant to save souls. Now they would sell them. If you've been following this journey from the beginning, you've seen kings and warriors fight for faith, pride, and power. But what comes next isn't holy, it's betrayal. And if this is your first time here, welcome. You're stepping into the darkest chapter of the Crusades. So hit that like button, subscribe, and let's walk through the gates of a city that trusted Christendom and was destroyed by it. After Saladin retook Jerusalem, Europe burned with humiliation. Preachers shouted in the streets, "God's house is in the hands of the infidel." But kings were tired. The Third Crusade had drained their coffers, their armies, and their faith. So when Pope Innocent III called for a new crusade in 1202, it wasn't kings who answered. It was merchants, adventurers, and men with empty pockets but greedy hearts. They called it the Fourth Crusade, a mission to reclaim Jerusalem. But before they could even set sail, they needed ships, and ships were expensive. So they turned to Venice, the richest trade city in the world. The Doge of Venice, Enrico Dandolo, was blind and in his 90s, but his vision was clearer than anyone's. He saw what the Crusaders didn't: opportunity. Venice agreed to build their fleet, hundreds of warships ready to carry 20,000 men across the sea. But when the Crusaders arrived, they had a problem. They couldn't pay. Dandolo smiled. "Then you will pay in service." And that was the moment the Holy War turned into a business deal. Instead of sailing to the Holy Land, the Crusaders were told to attack Zara, a Christian city that had rebelled against Venice. Shocked, knights hesitated. They had taken vows not to spill Christian blood, but hunger, debt, and greed silenced their doubts. The cross was turned into currency. Zara burned beneath the same banners meant to free Jerusalem. The Pope was furious. He excommunicated everyone involved, but the Crusaders didn't care anymore. Once you've broken one commandment, breaking the rest gets easier. And that's when another voice whispered temptation. The voice of a prince, exiled from Byzantium. His name was Alexios Angelos, and he had a proposition. If the Crusaders helped him reclaim his throne in Constantinople, he would pay them a fortune: gold, soldiers, and ships to finally take Jerusalem. The deal was irresistible. So they marched, not to the Holy Land, but to the greatest Christian city in the world, Constantinople, the jewel of the East, a city of scholars, saints, and emperors. For centuries, it had stood as the shield of Christendom. Its churches glowed with mosaics of Christ and angels. Its streets buzzed with traders from every corner of the world. The Crusaders should have knelt in reverence. Instead, they sharpened their swords. In the spring of 1203, their fleet appeared like a storm on the horizon. Imagine the people of Constantinople hearing that holy warriors had arrived, only to see their walls surrounded by Western knights and Venetian galleys. The city's defenders were stunned. These men came to save the Holy Land. Why were they here? The Crusaders launched their assault. Siege towers rolled, arrows rained, and amid the chaos, Alexios Angelos was restored to power as promised. For a moment, it seemed the madness might end, but promises are easy in war. Paying them is not. Alexios couldn't deliver the gold he promised. His people hated him for bowing to the invaders. The streets turned hostile. The city rose in rebellion, and the Crusaders, starving and unpaid, grew restless. The holy cause was dead. Only greed remained. In April 1204, the unthinkable happened. The Crusaders turned their weapons on Constantinople itself. Fire swallowed the city. Churches were looted. Monks were slaughtered at their altars. Nuns were dragged from convents. Gold icons were melted, relics stolen, sacred paintings ripped from walls and sold. For 3 days, the army of Christ became the army of hell. Eyewitnesses said the smoke blotted out the sun. The great cathedral of Hagia Sophia was desecrated. Horses were stabled inside it. The chalices of communion became cups for wine. And amid the rubble, the blind Doge of Venice stood watching, whispering, "Now the world belongs to Venice." When the flames finally died, Constantinople, the greatest Christian city on earth, was in ruins. Its treasures were scattered across Europe. Its people wept, asking how men who carried the cross could commit such sins. The Pope himself, horrified, said, "The Greek church is torn apart, and the world has lost its light." This was not a crusade. It was a crime against God. And it would never be forgotten. The scars ran deep. The East and West, once brothers in faith, became enemies forever. The wound between the Catholic and Orthodox churches opened that day, still bleeds 1,000 years later. So, what was gained? A few crowns, a few chests of gold. And what was lost? Trust, unity, and the soul of Christendom. They had set out to free Jerusalem. Instead, they destroyed Constantinople. The city that had stood against Islam for centuries was now a ghost, burned by those who claimed to serve the same God. And that betrayal would come back to haunt them. Because when the Crusaders broke Byzantium, they broke the last wall protecting Europe from the rising power of the East. 200 years later, the descendants of those same Turks would return, and this time they would finish what the Crusaders began. The fall of Constantinople in 1553 wasn't the work of infidels, it was the echo of 1204. Every cannon that tore through those walls was fired by the consequences of greed. Every soldier marching under the Ottoman banner walked through the gates the Crusaders had left broken. The Holy War had devoured itself. Faith turned to profit, devotion to corruption. The cross, once a symbol of sacrifice, became a brand of conquest. And in that fire, the last flicker of unity between East and West was lost forever. If you've been following this series from the beginning, you've seen kings and warriors fight for faith, pride, and power. But what comes next isn't holy, it's betrayal. And if this is your first time here, catch up on parts 1 and 2 to see how the Holy Wars began, and hit that like button if you've made it this far, because part 4 will show how the Crusades didn't end, they evolved. From the battlefields of Jerusalem to the dawn of empire, this is just the beginning of the next age.